Hi, my name is David Godbout, and I am from St. Louis, Missouri, and I had the privilege this morning of speaking here at Grace Point Church for Pastor Fel, and what a wonderful time, what an incredible congregation, and so many familiar and new faces that I got to meet. And my assignment was to just come and bring a word to the congregation, something out of the book of James, because the congregation and Pastor Fel have been walking with James through the last number of weeks, so that is what we did. We looked at James chapter 2, verses 8 through 13, and begins with James giving the command, the exhortation to love your neighbor as yourself, and we unpacked that just to understand that no matter whether a person is a believer or a non-believer, no matter what their perspective or worldview is, something within the heart of men and women, humanity as a whole, we have that as a common commandment. Something inside of us tells us how we ought to be treating and loving one another. And we spent a couple of moments just talking about who our neighbors are and the variety and the diversity that is there. And not just that people are different than us as in our community, and specifically different than us as believers with differing opinions and viewpoints, but more often than not, people are actually opposing us, or their lifestyle is in opposition to our lifestyle. Their ideologies is in opposition to my ideology. Their worldview is in opposition or contradiction. But that does not let us off the hook. We are still commanded to love our neighbor as ourselves. And what makes it easier or makes that difficult task somewhat accomplishable is we remember that, as James tells us, we all share a common condition. And that condition is that we have all violated the law. We are all transgressors of the law. We are all broken and sinful people who cannot fix ourselves. And so my brokenness, my sinfulness may look different than somebody else's, but we're all in the same boat, and we all have that condition. So we can love our neighbors no matter who they are, no matter what their lifestyle, their perspectives are, because we know, like one of the challenges today was to remember the pit from which we were dug when Christ came into our lives. And if we can do that, that will help us, empower us to love our neighbors no matter where we find them to be in their life and in their lifestyle. And then the last thing we talked about is we all have, every human being has another thing in common, and that is a common hope. And that hope, James says, is mercy. That we will be judged by the law of liberty. And the law of liberty has the mercy of God because of the work of Jesus Christ, his sinless life, his sacrificial death, his bodily resurrection. When we put our faith in Jesus, then we are set free. Romans 8, 1 and 2 says, there is no condemnation for those who have believed in Christ Jesus. For the law of the Spirit of life has set us free from the law of sin and death. So as we are loving our neighbors, it is our responsibility to let them know part of the common condition of our sinfulness includes the common condition of judgment. We will all be judged, and I need to tell them that. So I want in my life to be lived in such a way that I love my neighbors and invest in my neighbors, and they know that I love them to the point that we can sit face to face, eyeball to eyeball, and I can tell them, you are going to be judged. The issue is, will you be judged under the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus because he has taken your sin away through his death on the cross? Or will you be judged on your own under the law of sin and death? And the only way I'm going to be able to tell them that and share that with them, and them maybe not believe it, but at least receive it, is if I have truly, authentically, genuinely loved them, put them ahead of myself, cared for them, sacrificed in some way, served them in some way, engaged in their life in a very real and dignified way to the point that they can open their heart and at least hear the words that I'm saying and hear the fact that it's coming from a heart of love. They may not think I'm right, they may not believe it, but they will at least hear it. And once that happens, the Spirit of God can take that. Maybe that moment, maybe next week, maybe next decade, but God can take that moment and bring it back to them. Hebrews 9:27 will come alive, that it is appointed unto men once to die, after death the judgment. And the question for my life, and the question for my neighbors, and the question for your life is, what have you done with Jesus? That's what makes a distinction under which law we will be judged. The law of the Spirit of life, which leads me to heaven in Christ, or the law of the Spirit of death, which takes me to a Christless eternity separated from God. God bless. Have a great week. I pray that God will use you, open your eyes to the world around you, help you, give you creative ways to love your neighbors, serve them in such a way that you are the hands, the feet, and most importantly, the voice of Jesus speaking into the lives of people. God bless.